What is up, guys? EJ here, back with another video, and today it's going to be my DVD collection and on to the Western section, so let's get started. Up first we have 310 to Yuma from 2007, really good film with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale. Ben Foster, awesome in a supporting role in that movie. Next we have The Alamo, the original one from 1960 with John Wayne, Richard Widmark, Lawrence Harvey, and Richard Boone. Also have the 2004 remake with Dennis Quaid and Billy Bob Thornton, Jason Patrick Wilson. Not as good as the original, but still a very good movie. Next we have American Outlaws from 2001. Good young cast: Colin Farrell, Scott Conn, Ali Larter, Kathy Bates as the mother is good, and I like Timothy Dalton in this. He's really good as the villain. It was a lot better than Texas Rangers, which I believe came out the same year, which was terrible. Next we have Appaloosa from 2008 with Viggo Mortensen, Ed Harris, Renee Zellweger, and Jeremy Irons. Really good film. Sorry about the angle, I'm a little cramped here, I'm back up against the couch. Next we have The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Great film from 2005 with Brad Pitt and Casey Affleck. Next we have Bend of the River from 1952 with Jimmy Stewart, Julia Adams, and Rock Hudson, film I watched last year. Next we have Mel Brooks's classic Blazing Saddles from 1974, one of his best and well-known films. Next we have my all-time favorite Western, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, directed by George Roy Hill from 1969 with Paul Newman and Robert Redford. Next we have Cat Ballou from 1965 with Lee Marvin and Jane Fonda. Next we have Cimarron, one of the early Best Picture winners from 1931. Yeah, I don't think... yeah, I saw this a couple years ago. What am I talking about? Anyway, next we have The Cowboys from 1972 with John Wayne. We watched this last year. Really good film. Next we have Cowboys and Aliens on Blu-ray from 2011 with Harrison Ford and Daniel Craig. Yeah, it was better than I thought it would be, that's for sure. I wasn't impressed with the previews going into it, but I enjoyed it. Next we have Dances with Wolves from 1990, directed by Kevin Costner and of course starring himself. One of my favorite films of the 90s. Yeah, I still love Dances with Wolves. I remember when I saw it in the theaters when it came out. Next we have Fort Apache from 1948. Fort Apache, sorry. Great John Ford film with John Wayne, Henry Fonda, Shirley Temple. Okay, next we have The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly from 1966. Classic, of course, directed by Sergio Leone with Clint Eastwood. I still need to pick up the first two for a few dollars more and Fistful of Dollars. Well, I got those in the wrong order too when I said them. Anyway, next we have High Noon from 1952 with Gary Cooper and Grace Kelly, one of my favorite westerns. Let's put it back in the wrong place. Skipping the next one, which is Hondo from 1953 with John Wayne, which I'll be rewatching in a month or two. Next we have How the West Was Won, also one of the films I'll be rewatching this year, from 1962. Great all-star cast. Yeah, just a great load of people like John Wayne, Gregory Peck, and so on, Jimmy Stewart. Next we have Jeremiah Johnson from 1971. Great film starring Robert Redford. Sort of a minimalist survival western. Oh man, I'm like really cramped in here. More comfortable. Okay, next we have Magnificent Seven from 1960, classic film, remake of Akira Kurosawa's The Seven Samurai with Yul Brynner, Eli Wallach, and Steve McQueen. Okay, next we have The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance from 1962, great film with Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne. Next we have Maverick from 1994, film directed by Richard Donner, starring Mel Gibson, Jodie Foster, and James Garner. Fun movie. It's not great, but I enjoy it. Next we have McCabe and Mrs. Miller from 1971, great film directed by Robert Altman, starring Warren Beatty and Julie Christie. Next we have The Missing from 2007, really good Ron Howard film starring Cate Blanchett and Tommy Lee Jones. Next we have My Darling Clementine from 1946, great film starring Henry Fonda. Next we have Ned Kelly from, I would say, 2004, 2003, a really good Australian Western with Heath Ledger and Orlando Bloom, Naomi Watts, Jeffrey Rush. Next we have Once Upon a Time in the West from 1969, classic of course by Sergio Leone with Henry Fonda, Charles Bronson, Jason Robards, and Claudia Cardinal. Next we have Open Range from 2003, film directed by Kevin Costner and starring himself, Robert Duvall, and Annette Bening. Really good film, probably the last great Western that Costner starred in and did himself. Next we have The Outlaw Josie Wales from 1976, one of Clint Eastwood's best. Next we have The Oxbow Incident from 1943, classic with Henry Fonda. Next we have Pale Rider from 1985, starring Clint Eastwood of course. I remember when I saw this film when I was a kid, and I was always sort of shocked and horrified by the early scene where the guy gets shot in the middle of the street by like 4 or 5 different guys. It always scared the crap out of me, that moment. Next we have Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, starring James Coburn, Chris Christopherson, and Bob Dylan. Great film directed by Sam Peckinpah from, I'm not sure to be honest, 1973. Next we have The Quick and the Dead from 1995, starring Sharon Stone, Russell Crowe, Gene Hackman, and Leonardo DiCaprio. I know Scott Sinaram is very fond of the soundtrack of this film. It's a little sort of over the top and cheesy, but I enjoy it. Fun cast, a decent enough story. Sort of a guilty pleasure when it comes to westerns. Next we have Red River from, I'm going to say 1948. John Wayne and Montgomery Clift. Oh, I was right on. Okay, next we have Ride the High Country from 1962. Great film directed by Sam Peckinpah, which I rewatched last year, starring Randolph Scott and Joel McCrea. Next we have Rio Bravo from 1958. Great film starring John Wayne, Dee Martin, and Ricky Nelson. Next we have Rio Grande from 1951 with John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara. Great film. Another John Wayne film, and that's Rio Lobo from 1970, one of his later films. I really enjoyed this movie, actually. Good movie directed by Howard Hawks. Next we have The Searchers, classic from 1956, directed by John Ford, starring John Wayne, of course. One of my favorite westerns, one of the best of all time. Next we have Seraphim Falls. I believe from 2006, 2007, something like that. Really good modern western with Liam Neeson and Pierce Brosnan. When I say modern, I mean film made in recent years. Underrated movie, actually. Next we have Shane from 1953. One I'm also going to be rewatching this year with Alan Ladd, Gene Arthur, and Van Heflin. Next we have Shanghai Noon from 2000. Yeah, when I did my first video, my action video, Shanghai Nights was in that section, and I have Shanghai Noon from 2000 in the westerns, of course, with Jackie Chan, Owen Wilson, and Lucy Liu. Not great, but it's sort of fun. Next we have She Wore a Yellow Ribbon from 1949, classic John Ford. Next we have Silverado from 1985, one of the best westerns of the 80s, directed by Lawrence Kasdan. Great cast: Kevin Costner, Kevin Kline, Scott Glenn, John Cleese, Rosanna Arquette, Danny Glover, Jeff Goldblum, Linda Hunt. Next we have Stagecoach, my all-time favorite John Wayne, John Ford western, my second favorite western of all time from 1939. Also have this on the Criterion Collection. Next we have Tombstone from 1993, one of the best westerns of the 90s, of course, with Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer. A lot of people love that movie. Next we have True Grit, the original from 1969 with John Wayne, Glenn Campbell, and Kim Darby. Next we have the Coen Brothers remake, True Grit from 2011, one of my favorite films of that year. Like it better than the original. Jeff Bridges, Matt Damon, and Josh Brolin, all great, but the scene stealer was, I'm completely blanking on her name, the young girl. She was so good in this. And Haley Steinfeld, that's it. Okay, next we have my all-time favorite western, Unforgiven, of course, directed by Clint Eastwood and starring himself from 1992 with Gene Hackman, Morgan Freeman, and Richard Harris. Just a brilliant film. Okay, next we have The Wild Bunch from 1969, classic Sam Peckinpah film with William Holden, Ernest Borgnine, Robert Ryan. Yeah, just a brilliant film. Next we have Winchester 73 from 1951. Great film starring Jimmy Stewart and Shelley Winters. Next we have Wyatt Earp from 1993 or 4 with film by Lawrence Kasdan with Kevin Costner, Dennis Quaid, and Gene Hackman. Sort of the similar story as Tombstone, came out around the same time as well. They're both really good. I think Tombstone's a little bit better, but Wyatt Earp's a great movie as well. And last but not least, we have Young Guns from 1988, sort of the Brat Pack Western, if you like, with Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Charlie Sheen, Dermot Mulroney, and Casey Siemaszko, whatever his last name is. So that's the Western section. I'm going to be getting some more Westerns soon. Need to sort of fill it up a little bit more. But anyway, up next will be the Criterion Collection. I've gone through all these genres, and now we're on to the home stretch, I like to say, because it's the last sort of bookcase. And all that's left is Criterion's and the TV section. And Criterion's will probably be, yeah, I'd say 3 videos. So thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see ya.